Back to Wednesday, Grimace throws out the first pitch at Citi Field, and it's a pretty good one. I mean, considering how out of shape he looks, but not a bad pitch.
Please have Aaron Judge and Juan Soto breaking records. Ruth, Mantle, Gehrig, and the Mets have Grimace, and now Hatua. Come on, bro, I can't take it. I cannot take it anymore. It's ridiculous. And then you wonder why fans get so ticked off and upset. It's embarrassing. Is it the biggest deal in the world? No, absolutely. Does it mean anything on the field? No. But that's the problem. The product on the field isn't good enough, and you're coming up with these silly gimmicks that are laughing stock. It's a joke. Hatua.
Swing and a miss, they throw it out, it hits the bag, and it stays on the infield. What a break for the Mets. Oh, it hit the base, and it's...
Johnson ready, his first pitch to Lindor. Swinging a high fly ball, well hit right center, Harris going back, it's on the way, it is gone! Into the Braves bullpen in right center field, Francisco Lindor has an MVP moment, whether he wins one or not. He has just put the Mets back on top, 8-7, a two-run home run, his 33rd of the year. He's not only hugged by Marte, Marte lifts Lindor off of his feet. This is an unbelievable baseball game. The Mets have taken an 8-7 lead here in the ninth inning.
This is the Bladtcast. Welcome to our Major League Baseball playoff preview. Taking a look at all the teams vying for the World Series, but mostly a way for Mets fans to manage expectations and prepare for disappointment. Christian Bladt is joined by Solomon himself, comedian David Weiss, David Brody, generator of new content every day, Flobo Boyce, and author Devin Gordon. So break out your peanuts and Cracker Jacks, crack open an old style, and get ready for a ceremonial first pitch from Christian Bladt.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God, I guess would be the order of the day. Very excited to be back once again with our playoff preview. I'm Christian Bladt, and look right there with the Elizabeth Taylor lens, as we said during the pre-show, the one, the only Salmon himself, David Weiss. Hello, sir.
What's up, America?
And everyone knows about new content every week, but how about new content every day from Flobo Boyce of Mets Digest? It's the only one of us on the show that's of Mets Digest. Great to see you, Flobito.
You know what? Thanks so much for the invite. I figure after the first couple times you would have said, "No, you're fine," but we're here today.
No. And of course, with us as always now is the great David Brody, professional Brooklyn boy.
He's looking svelte too. Look at this guy. He's been working out.
Is that Ozempic? What's going on there?
Nope, that is no Chinese food 3 days a week like I used to eat, and a lot less pizza. So,
well, then why is
Beautiful.
Is life worth living with less Chinese food and pizza?
That's that Flatbush Ozempic, bro. No Chinese food.
You know, it's compliments from my peers that make it all worthwhile. Much better than lo mein.
Well, I'm so glad also to welcome our friend Devin Gordon, author of So Many Ways to Lose. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Devin. I thought of you very specifically yesterday during that first game because I was like, oh, there's so many ways to lose and lose again and lose again and somehow actually win.
Once more.
Yeah, that was that was really surprising thing.
We were writing a new chapter there for a minute, weren't we? We really were.
Goodness.
Yeah, you would have had to publish like an e-chapter like overnight if they had lost that game, and then because if they had lost that game, they definitely would have lost game 2. I think that
probably
we were all prepared for. I've got one person on this screen who was already making hotel reservations in San Diego, thinking they were going to win too, but I won't name who that is. But let's start with that, Devin. I'll start with you. I feel like in terms of a regular season game that I actually watched start to finish, I can't think of a game that was better than that one. Again, regular season, the stakes that there were, I mean, granted, the stakes weren't as high as if it was a 1-game playoff. If this was like an old wild card game where, the loser of that game would have gone home. But I don't know. I just found it to be crazy. And Gary, Keith, and Ron even said that, it was one of the most exciting games they'd ever called. What did you think as the afternoon was unfolding, Devin?
Well, actually, I wanted to put a question to you guys because I was playing this game afterward, trying to think of whether or not that was the biggest regular season win in Mets history. Because I can't really come up with another one that was as dramatic and weighted with so much on the line. There's the game 163 against the Cincinnati Reds in '99. I guess would be the comparison, although my memories of that game are actually pretty vague. I remember we won and actually won quite easily, if memory serves. This had to have been the biggest win. So many of those vintage, amazing, miraculous Mets games, believe it or not, actually come in the playoffs. Tends to be when we work our biggest single game magic. But this one, oh my God. I mean, and with the win probability looking like an EKG chart, I mean, I think we've all probably looked at that. I'm here in Boston and was telling friends right afterwards that I was just going to run over to Mass General, just, get some tests done, make sure everything was okay. That was really special. And I've heard a lot of people saying that this team is already one of their favorites. A good friend of mine, going back to '86, puts this team already as his favorite playoff team since the '86 team, which I think is really saying something. And that's quite an impress. I'm not sure if I'm there yet. I think I'll feel differently if we lose. We lose to Milwaukee in the very first round here. Yeah. But there is something spectacularly vintage Mets about this season where we were all sitting here 6 months ago. Did any of us pick the Mets to go to the playoffs?
I believe Flobo is the
Flobo. You did?
Yeah.
I projected a really weak NL Central, but it turned out the entire National League was pretty bad.
Yeah.
I know my hope was, I remember vividly saying what I wanted was meaningful games in September. And I was defining September very loosely, right? Like I would have taken the first 2 weeks in September. And this has just been house money the whole way, double the house money now. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah. And I think that it's hard to think because usually the playoffs, don't come down like this. And you look back just 2 years to 2022, they lost all those games in Atlanta when they just needed to win one. So this is not that same moment. And I think with that as sort of the prologue to this, having failed in Atlanta when the playoffs were on the line. I mean, the division was on the line. They still went to the playoffs. But as we talked about here, that was real letdown. Usually the clincher, it's like there's no stakes. There's no drama. I think in 2015, it was like over multiple days where they kept coming back over the Nationals, with the addition of Cespedes. There's no one game where you're like, well, that's really the moment. It's trading for Cespedes really is, I think. But what about anyone else? Can anybody think of anything else? Brody, I felt like you had something.
What was the question?
In terms of significant regular season game, in terms of best compared to that.
I initially thought of two games. One was the Outlighter 163, and one was a game in June 14th, maybe 1980. It's a long time ago, but Steve Henderson hit a home run against the Giants. That put the Mets at 500 for the first time in 7 years.
Sure.
And that game, that home run was like astronomical. That was just an unbelievable game. This game yesterday, for a minute, I forgot it was a regular season game. I thought I was watching a playoff game. And so when somebody said best regular season game, I'm like, no, this was it's a regular season game.
It's one of those. Yeah.
It was, and I tweeted, they won the damn thing. If you remember the famous Bob Murphy call, the 10-9 game. That's what it reminded me of. I was looking at my tweets, and at the beginning of the game, I don't know, fourth inning, I wrote Ty Loss McGill. That's what I call him, Ty Loss. and then I tweeted, lineup is like watching paint dry. Why is JD Martinez in the lineup instead of Acuna? Why isn't Marte in? This is death. And then, about 15, 20 minutes later, I tweeted, Jose Iglesias is a runners and scoring position machine. Nimmo! Exclamation point. And then it was all positive after that. But boy, like most people, I'm like, this is just going to be another one of those games. It's just death. It's just death. And then they started hitting. Tyrone Taylor is the hero of the year.
Well, and I mean, that's kind of the fascinating thing is obviously those first 7 innings against, Spencer Schwallenbach. What is it with the Braves having guys named Spencer who we can't hit? But yeah. And just, obviously after the first game, it starts to come together why he takes the mound for the first time in the 8th inning. He'd never done that before because they didn't have Chris Sale in game 2, Yeah. And I mean, that was one of I was just shocked when I heard Howie Rose say that. I was like, how is that possible? That they don't have him, but they're very good, the Braves, at hiding injuries. Players aren't allowed to talk about anything that's wrong for years. That goes way back. So I don't know, but Flobo, specifically about this game, I wanted to kind of get your thoughts about the roller coaster that we all enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean, to answer the first question, yes, the right answer was 99, but I think the most excited I was after a victory was kind of that exhibition game in London, game 2, with Torrens getting like chop blocked to make the final out of the game. No, it really was a roller coaster because the bats fell asleep. The first 6 innings were unhittable, and it was like, or beyond being the hit and go, okay, here we go. It's one thing to lose 10-9 or 6-5, but you can't even get on the board. I'm like, well, maybe there's game 2. So I didn't give up. I knew the split was possible, but definitely I was like, all right, game 2 is going to be great. We're going to hit him really hard in game 2. And then we got this back and forth thing that when we were down, all my friends like to DM me and be like, oh, what's up with your team, huh? And then we got up, it was like, oh, look at us now. And so it really was something that rewarded everyone like myself who watched the bad May, who watched these games, who was being able to take all the heat, because it definitely felt like everyone could possibly be a hero in the squad, which is not the case in 22. We had guys we thought were heroes, but like you were saying, Tyrone Taylor can have a good run. Jesse Winker had a hot run. Like it was just off the rails. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that the fact that they lost Lindor for a little while, and you have Acuna, and just usually and Alonso's barely been hitting, so the fact that they actually have some of those replacements is I think the biggest difference. And I was a little distracted because I was looking for this. This is what Devin alluded to. This is the game. This is the chart for just the game. Their probability of winning, and you see how steep it goes down at the bottom of the 8th.
That was my heart rate.
Yeah, well, I somebody had messaged me, and I said, well, I went from needing a triple bypass to now I need a quadruple bypass after that game, and just the improbable. And look, it's a very Metsy thing to have what was already a great game, and then to lose it because
somebody has a better game.
Because Diaz doesn't cover first. No.
Yeah,
that to have been the moment, and that was the moment where I'm like, yeah, Devin's going to need that chapter. I mean, it's and it's not like an outfielder drops a ball. It's not any of those. It's just you didn't run over to first base.
A stone cold mental error.
Yeah. He was looking at Pete going, wow, that's a nice play, Pete. Oh, crap, I got to run.
Yeah.
It's always something so unique and original, something small and specific, right? Not something conventional.
A new way to lose.
A new way. And as soon as, Pete got up and had this sort of sunk look on his face because no one was covering, you could see sort of the air go out of him as soon as he realized that Diaz wasn't there. I thought that was it. Like, I really thought that was... Should have been. It should have been, and it. We've been through this so many times that I think we are all experts at identifying that sort of signature moment that spells the unraveling, right? Ah, that's it. Now I see how this is going to happen. I knew it was going to be something that I couldn't predict. That's it. And then sure enough, Albies comes up and smacks the ball. The only thing that sort of shocked me was that the ball didn't go out. I was sure it was going to go out.
I thought that was out too.
You know, incredibly fortunate actually, right, that it stays in the park and only hits the top of the fence and only clears the bases, and we're only down by 1.
Yeah.
But, you know, just a magnificent series of turns, and then there's that final Metsy turn. That's the thing I always remind my friends who are not Mets fans, who are always teasing me about this. I say, look, the thing about the Mets is that sometimes every so often it also goes the other way. We also get the miracle at the end. That's as Metsy as the collapse. And this time we got it. This time I even think, like, I don't know about you guys, but Gary, who's just always so flawless, kind of flubbed the Lindor call a tiny bit, right?
Yes, he did.
He got taken.
Yes, he did.
He got taken by surprise. He didn't think that one was going out. He thought it was just a lazy fly ball that kept carrying and carrying. Yep. He kind of had to catch up to the moment.
By the way, I also thought that wasn't going out. I was like, oh well, he just
didn't look like
it, and it kept going.
Yeah.
I think that Gary really was thrown off. And yeah, to Brody's point, we at the beginning, our little montage that I did on the fly, Howie Rose, that audio call from, the radio call. It's not radio anymore. It's not even WCBS. I don't know what to call it. So
yeah, Mets radio,
whatever.
Radio.
Yeah, the Mets booth. And and I think Howie's probably more cognizant because he has that TV call of Piazza's home run after 9/11 where they told him to not be too excited. So he's always kicked himself where he's like, oh, it's got a chance. He's like, it was so obvious that it was out, but So I think that you just don't expect it. And Gary and Howie obviously have seen pretty much everything. Howie's a little older, but so I can understand that. But yeah, a couple people mentioned to me this disappointing. I wanted to bring in a few people from the chats. We're going to talk Mets for a while, but we're going to get to everything else. So Larry, who always joins us for this show, with their slow start and stellar finish, this year's Mets have 2022 Phillies vibes, and that scares me a bit. Rather face the Padres or the Brewers. I think that the Phillies match up much better with the Brewers. Again, I love this for our visual audience. He says as a Phillies fan, whereas his avatar has a picture of him with the Philly fanatic. We got it, Larry.
It could have been a boxing matchup. It could have been his opponent.
And Rochi, a show talking about baseball without Joey C. Nice move. That's a little bit inside. But Sam Bibley says, Dan, Christian baseball, you cover it all. Yeah, absolutely. And Eric Herman had this comment specifically. This is what I was saying. When Diaz didn't cover first, I thought of Devin's book.
It's awful. I mean, great, but awful.
No, yeah, it really is.
But
it's and what year did that come out? Because it was before the 2022 playoffs. Was it before the pandemic?
Yes, it was. It came out in the spring of 2021. The book basically ends with the pandemic.
Right.
Exactly. Ruining what we all had was a very excited and hopeful 2020. So I thought we were going to be great in 2020.
The year that almost everybody. Yeah, the year that almost everybody made the playoffs and the Mets still didn't make it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, but it's funny. We've every year since then, 21, 22, 23, 24 now, has been a chapter level season for that book in one way or another. Whether it was the thumbs down season that went off the rails. Then 2022 with 101 win season where we actually make the playoffs and it somehow still feels like we won nothing. Yep. Right? That's hard. No
celebration.
No celebrations. And then the second worst team that money could buy last year. The Scherzer and Verlander debacle where we set a payroll record and I think we won 75 games to show for it. And now this year we do it the way we should. Right. We actually have something real to celebrate. And I love the fact that as Mets fans, we can say that we have been to the postseason 2 of the last 3 years. So that feels good. That feels like, a team that's actually headed in the right direction, that's got something going. And even though there has been various calamities along the way, we've had some pretty spectacular times to watch over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I think that that 22 season was such a letdown, losing to, of course, Atlanta in the last weekend, and them being the wild card and only winning that one game in the series. I mean, the Scherzer that pitched game 3 of that wild card series was very reminiscent of was it 2008 Tom Glavine? The 7 earned runs.
That was a real disappointment.
Yeah. Especially for me, because I had him on my fantasy team and I started him on the last day trying to get some extra.
That was his sleeper agent game. That was his sleeper agent game.
That was the game he was born to pitch. Yeah.
That was the game when he unveiled himself as a sleeper agent for the Braves, like we all knew he was all along, right? That was the game. Hey, did you guys watch any of the second game? I listened to it, and I got back in like when it was 1-0. I was like, come on. Let's put the stake in them. I wanted to win that game very badly and was genuinely disappointed when I think it was Ozuna maybe blew it open with that 2-run single. I was bummed. I really wanted that.
It was 1-0 into like the 6th. And, with Lucchesi pitching, and you're just like, I can't believe that this is what's happening. The Braves really looked defeated. Mentally, they were just couldn't believe that they'd lost that first game. And those at bats, I'm like, well, that's nothing like what that's not the team that usually faces the Mets. No. So I was like, wow. I mean, the Mets aren't even giving it. They're not putting the pedal to the metal, as it were, and they still could have won that game.
Easy,
but I think that that was surprising. And Larry chimes in. I legit thought the Braves could lose game 2 after they burned the relievers. Yeah, I mean, bringing Iglesias, or as Christopher Mad Dog Russo calls him, Inglesias, bringing him out for 6-out save, getting no outs, taking him out after it was only 12 pitches that he coughed up the game. Yeah. And rightly so. Snicker's like, all right, I'm really going to need him in the second one. So I don't know. I just I felt like that whole 8th inning onward was so mismanaged by Snicker, bringing a guy out for the 8th inning. He'd done well, but really that who had the 11-12 pitch at bat? Was that
Tyrone Taylor?
Taylor.
Yeah.
Taylor.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of
the resign him too. You
can point to all these guys, like Tyrone Taylor. You're just like, I can't even remember. Yeah, exactly.
And can we say a word for Edwin Diaz? Just because, I mean, how marvelous for him to go back out there and deliver. I mean, I think that was just
gut check.
such a gut check, such a Met moment for him. I can't even imagine.
If he doesn't go back out there, I don't know how he faces his teammates. He had to go back out and do that.
It was like having him come out to that game in Arizona after he had blown 2 saves, and it was just like, he has to come and get that one. And supposedly they were going to bring Stanek in, but he said, I'm going out there. Don't try to stop me, which is of course what you want to hear. And I don't know if that's literally what he said, but that was what.
But credit to Mendoza for letting him go out there and not overruling him.
Yeah, but it could have been
that whole game. No, Mendoza really managed by his gut that game.
Yeah,
I'm sure there were plenty of number nerds up in the front office pulling their hair out that he wasn't going the percentages.
Yeah, and Larry chimes in that Snicker stinks, riding the coattails of tremendous talent on his team. I mean, you could, that was the knock that people always had. I agree. Well, let me just say that's the knock people always had on Joe Torre. That literally anyone could have managed those Yankee teams.
The guy lost Acuna Jr. and he kept them going. So I gotta give him credit for that.
And he lost Harris.
And he lost Strider.
I give all that credit to AA because getting those veterans when they need to was all front office. Snicker does not have the juice that Ron Washington had. They break up, and both of them aren't as good as they were last season. Look at the Angels now. That's my theory. Maybe I'm crazy, but I think that Snicker can pretty much run this in automatic.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Look, when you're looking around for managers at the National League who you should be pointing at fingers, he's not usually it. We'll talk about Dave Roberts in a little bit. We'll get to the guy who I literally cannot believe he still has a job for 3 years now. But we'll get to that. So, look, I think that. That run, so they have the players meeting. For people that don't know, there's the team is 11 games under 500 at the end of May. They have a players meeting, and they do start playing better. And then, as Mets fans, we are going to latch onto some of the dumb stuff that I showed in the montage at the beginning. The fact that there's a purple Grimace seat at Citi Field, I love it, but at the same time, it's like, oh, I hope
that's how far we've fallen.
Yeah,
the 69 Mets based their whole winning season on a black cat. So
right.
Whatever it takes to win, whatever makes the fans happy, I'm okay with.
Yeah. Our 2000 theme song was "Who Let the Dogs Out." Okay, the classiness sailed.
Okay,
so long ago from this franchise.
If I could just interrupt. Who here in this chat room heard "Who Let the Mets Out"?
Well, I have, because you've sent it to me.
That's right, because I wrote it.
I haven't.
So,
yeah.
Oh, you did write it. So you're responsible. Okay.
That's right. I got the Baja Men to record it. True story.
Really? Were they available? That's odd.
They're always
2000 was their minute. Yeah.
No, I got them in 2000, and they got everything right except they pronounced They said Edgardo Alfonso because I didn't spell it phonetically, and they said Bubba Trammell. They pronounced Bubba Trammell. Other than that, they did a great job. I wasn't in the studio with them, but they did record it. So there you go.
I'm sure that Bubba Trammell's name was pronounced correctly in the next song someone put his name into.
That is any day now.
No one made that mistake again.
I may have to use AI to write a Bubba Trammell song later today.
All right. Well, if enjoy some Benny Agbayani Benny Bean coffee while you're doing it.
That's my guy, man. Growing up,
Hawaiian Punk.
Benny, there's only 2 outs Agbayani.
Yeah. Here you go.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think that they're the things, and that was specifically why I played that clip of Sal Licata from WFAN in New York. He was like, people up in arms about the Hawk Tua girl throwing a pitch, but look at their record. Look at their record after that. So that was why I included that, and she even posted something afterwards.
Don't get me started on that.
Well, I mean, I can get you started on any of it, but
I mean, Sal's a jerk. Totally doesn't understand.
Not this Sal.
Sal's a friend of mine. Be nice.
No, he's a great guy. I guess. I haven't met the individual, but as a sports
on air, he sometimes can rub people. I understand.
Yeah. I haven't met the guy in all seriousness, but like the Hawk Tour girl was there for 2 reasons. One, it was like to raise money for giving veterans animals, and 2, she wasn't the official first pitch. Rapper Pharoah Monch was the first pitch. She was like a little before first pitch. So what are we mad about? This team has done goofy stuff forever. Remember Lady Met? I had a Lady Met pog when I was a kid. Come on. This team is weird, man.
Somebody go get Flobo from wherever he just went to.
The 90s, baby. He's coming back. Get your pogs today.
Mercury Mets, still the worst.
The Mercury Mets.
Look, I'll admit that I own a few black jerseys. So
we have a team that's dripped in tradition. By design, we have to be the fun one, and so the chair in the 500 level, sure, that seats like what, $6 during the season. I don't mind.
Well, let's so all of that stuff becomes instantly forgettable if you don't make the playoffs, but. Let's look at the reality of going back to Milwaukee after yesterday, where they did not play well. And I think that the Padres are a better team, a harder to beat team, but maybe getting a look at a different team could have helped. I don't feel great about it. I think that that's probably why I'm really embracing this moment right now. But I don't know. It's not like the Mets didn't learn anything from those 3 games in Milwaukee. So let's start with that. After you have this really surprising turnaround, I would say amazing season. What do we think about heading into Milwaukee? We'll go kind of clockwise. I'll start with you, Sal.
Well, I think that those Milwaukee games, I think we were a little emotionally drained. Hopefully we've got some adrenaline going, but man, this travel schedule I mean, yesterday was probably the greatest Mets game I've seen since Game 686.
Sure.
But with this travel schedule, and they have to play 3 games in a row now, the pitching is set up, and I really like the fact that our middle infielders are carrying us. But Pete is 1 for 20, Martinez 2 for 35. We need some thunder in that lineup just to give these guys a rest.
Yeah, I understand. I don't know if there's an elephant walking down your street or where that is, but
It's not
there's
mine.
Okay.
Shout out to the A's, man.
Yeah, well, I do want to talk about the A's for a minute when we get over there. And I mean, look, I think that I think that they can win a game there. I just feel like having trouble beating the team twice over the weekend when you did have an incentive to beat them. But what do you think, Flobo, about the Brew Crew?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say because on paper I felt like San Diego's a stronger team, but we kind of had their number. That split could have easily been a sweep the time we were out there, except for the one meltdown. But the Brewers, we just 1 out of 6 in the regular season series, and so it's kind of like, man, I don't want to think doom and gloom, but the way they're fast and we're just kind of slow, it may be a matchup of inches and manager decisions.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out. Okay, so that's Flobo who's got that in the background.
It was Devin.
Oh no, it was Devin. Okay.
Well, they both muted. And
I muted Flobo, and all right. So, and I don't know. Look, I mean, the thing that I'm just like, all right. Well, Freddie Peralta starts today. I can see beating him. There's a lot of times when you look and you're like, oh, there's no way that they can score anything off of this guy. Not that he's easy. I'm not selling him short. But what do you think about Milwaukee, Brody?
Well, I like that the Mets kept their hotel rooms and they're all going back to the same hotel rooms they had.
Hey.
So that's a plus, right? Oh, there's my towel. It's the same pitchers for the Mets, right? It's the same 3 lefties again.
Yeah.
The way it worked out.
Is Severino pitching?
Severino's pitching today.
Oh, is it Severino's pitching? Oh, forgot. Yeah. So
yeah.
Severino, it depends on which Severino shows up.
Yeah.
If to me it looks like Severino's shot. Like he pitched more innings this year than he should have.
Yeah.
It's healthiest year in a while. I feel like he's losing it now. He's coming off a lot of rest here, so maybe that's an advantage that he's going to have a little extra rest. But I'm a little concerned. I'd like to have Minaya in game 1, but Minaya that throws the pitch mix he was throwing when he won 6 in a row. Not the pitch mix when Milwaukee destroyed him a couple of days ago.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I think the Mets are on a high, but I don't put JD Martinez on the field, to be honest with you. I'll put Marte as the DH if I have to. I'll put Acuna at DH if I have to. But JD is shot, completely shot.
Yeah.
He can't lay off the outside swerve. He's done. It's hard to say that, but he's hitting 230 or something. He's no longer JD Martinez. So if you're going to put Bader and Taylor and play defense, that's great. But then somebody's got to hit, which means Marte over Martinez or Acuna over Martinez. I know Acuna's a rookie, but I'm done with JD.
He doesn't play like a rookie.
He's done.
No.
Yeah.
Is Jesse Winker still on this team?
Yeah.
Where has Jesse Winker been buried and why? Now, I know he's 3 for his last 700, but we've got lots of guys on the team right now who are 3 for their last 700.
Yeah. Pete, JD, Jesse.
Yeah. I trust Winker more than JD.
I'm delusional enough to look at this and think, okay, well, that means they're about to bust out. This can't go on forever. The one that I really have hopes for is Pete, because over the last 3 weeks, as great as this has been, Pete's been a bummer. It's, there's been all of this drama about whether or not he's playing his last game at City. Is this the end of his run in the Mets uniform? And I think we all still love the guy. And from it's not like he's been bad. He's just been kind of invisible. Mm-hmm. And it would be fantastic if he made a statement in this particular series, if he took the opportunity to say, this is the team that I want to be on, and you guys want to have me because I can do this. And, when you think about Pete Alonso, as great as he's been over the course of his career, already almost, he's within, I think, 20 of Strawberry for the most home runs in Mets history. What's the signature moment? What is the Pete's signature moment? I mean, you look at Lindor. Lindor's the last 2 wins that the Mets have had, Lindor, both of those games are historic games for Lindor. I thought that the win over Milwaukee, when he was literally crosses home plate and he's crawling because he can't get up on his own, was like a metaphor for the season. Just scoring, just crawling across the finish line and needs to be helped up by Vientos. Like, what, my God, that's the season in a nutshell right there. Pete, make us love you, buddy. Give us a reason to desperately want you back, because right now, we're getting to the situation where people are falling in love with Acuna. We've already forgotten about Jeff McNeil. We've already scratched him out of the future of the franchise.
Done.
Ronnie Mauricio's name will resurface this winter when people remember that he's still on this franchise.
Love Mauricio.
Was supposed to be what Acuna is turning to be in the last couple of weeks.
One of them is going to be traded, man.
There's a universe where, Mets fans get to the point where they're like, okay, Vientos at first, and we'll just shuffle this around, and we'll put Mauricio at third, and we'll put Acuna at second, and we'll turn it over to the kids, and we'll move on.
That's a very strong infield.
Take your moment. Take your moment. This is your shot. Because I look at this Brewers team, I feel like they've beaten us like 20 out of 22, and I'm not that far off. Like,
no, you're not that far off. It's over the last 3-4 seasons. Yeah.
It's been rough. Yeah. It's been rough. And this is a team that hits a lot of home runs. They steal a lot of bases. They are very aggressive. We are going to have to score some runs to beat this team. Playing them, it's weird. It's playing them this year has sort of been like what playing Atlanta has been for the past year. They're just running all over you and they're clobbering the ball. We're going to have to score some runs. And some of these guys, like, the Jesse Winkers and the Petes and the, God help us, JD Martinez, who actually I think has had a few hits in his last 6 or something. He's been a little better. But I'm with you, David. I look at a guy and I just think he's washed. I don't know why.
He looks washed.
He's
washed. Got him 1 year too late. But we're going to need these guys who are sucking wind right now to come up with some signature moments in the playoffs for us, or we're going to go home. And I would be surprised if we go home. Like, Milwaukee's owned us. As Sal was saying, this is a lot. This is a lot of baseball. It's a lot of travel. It's a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
Much as we love this team, look, this is not one of our most talented teams, right?
Today, I'm so tired.
Yeah, this is a team that scrapes and claws and crawls across the finish line like Lindor did in that game. And
but that's what we want. Those are the Mets that we like.
I feel like if we've got something going for us in a weird way, it's that this is 3 games. I feel like we could, 3 games. You can win a 3-game series. I mean, okay, you can. Weird shit happens in 3-game series. Who knows?
Yeah, a couple things that I want to, so the Brewers game is, they're younger and faster and they score more runs, but the fact that they were able to win 3 out of 4 against the Phillies shows that, they can beat a team that has, areas that they don't excel in. It's just when you see guys stealing second and then stealing third every time they're up, it's like, all right. So a single is basically a triple run scored. Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Do
you start Torrens tonight?
I don't know. No, I think that
tomorrow maybe.
The lineup is already out. Alvarez is going to be catching. And he's batting 8th.
Torrens isn't Pudge Rodriguez. Okay. I mean, Torrens isn't. Pick your favorite defensive catcher who can't really hit.
And Winker's at DH, by the way. Sorry.
There you go.
He is. Oh, good. That's interesting. Okay.
There you go. I think that's a good choice. Thank you, Flobo, for the late breaking news.
Nice.
Straight from Mets Digest. And by the way, if Jeff McNeil had been in the lineup all season, they wouldn't be in the playoffs right now. That was just yet another black hole in the lineup this year. And just a couple of things. Our friend Melissa was going to join us today. She's was a regular on these shows every year, but she was going to pop in and visit with us before she went to the Orioles playoff game. But now she's got a sick kid, so now she's just hanging out with us in the chat. And she asked the question, are those the Mets we like, or the Mets we're so used to that we've convinced ourselves. We're like, look, we're all in a dysfunctional
that is
relationship
a
with the Mets.
penetrating question.
We are all in a very dysfunctional relationship with the Mets.
Yes.
We all should have walked away, but there's always that instance. And the final point I wanted to make about Pete Alonso, when you think about Pete Alonso and you think of big moments, it's a home run derby. So there's not anything that matters, and it's like, I like him. And look, my 6-year-old daughter likes him because I told her his nickname was Polar Bear. I'm like, great, whatever makes you excited and you want to watch it, that's fine. But I'd like him to be on the team so that I can at least talk to my daughter for a minute or two about the Mets. It's really all I need. But I think that it's a fairly easy page to turn, but I won't be disappointed if he comes back. It's one of those. And Larry, of course, remembers Melissa was always the one who made her decisions based on teams that had the most balks during the year. So Larry remembers Balk Lady, and we very much appreciate her being in the chat, even if she couldn't be with us. Look, I think that they have to play a very different game than they did over the weekend. And, you have to, it's tough to stop a running game like what the Brewers have, and
keep them off base.
Yeah. Keep them off the bases. No walks. I mean, if there's been one thing that has driven me crazy about this team all season is the amount of people that we walk. That is the one thing that has consistently made me enraged. And we cannot do that against this team in particular. Cannot walk people.
No.
And Melissa wants to point out her son's first ever MLB game featured a balk. Well, I'll one up that.
How do you explain a balk to a kid? How do you explain a balk? I don't even know how to explain a balk to an adult. That's a tough one.
Even the
pitcher did something wrong. What did he do wrong? He didn't pause at his belt long enough.
Well, sometimes it's your back flinches, and then all right, that's a balk. So it's such a vague term. But I will always one up Melissa with the fact that the first baseball game I brought my son to, Bartolo Colon hit a home run. So
you were at that game.
Yeah,
was there
and Melissa was there too. Actually, we were sitting with the 7 line in San Diego.
Oh, sweet!
Fun fact: comedian Jim Brewer was also sitting there with us. So,
wow, I thought I had you beat before you said it. My daughter's first game was Game 3 of the 2000 World Series. But you taught me Bartolo Colon game is bigger than that.
Yeah,
you win. That's a legendary game. That's been the best home run since Lindor's.
Bartolo Colon is a legend.
MVP.
It was the biggest home run for sure.
I remember I was reading at late in the weekend when it was apparent that they were going to have to play a doubleheader. Somebody, and I'd give credit if I can remember who posted it, but somebody said if the Mets win the first game, they should sign Bartolo Colon and have him throw all 9 innings regardless of the score. And I'm like, I love that idea. But
he'd probably throw a 3-hit shutout.
His fastball toss at 78 now. Are you serious?
He's magical.
Okay.
So I think that it's one of those things where in my heart, I can't pick the Mets to lose another wild card series, but I think that the road is a little unclear to how they are able to beat the Brewers. I think that it becomes, I don't know, after that last series, I'm like, well, I feel like they could beat the Phillies, but the Phillies are actually better than the Brewers. So, it's not like it's going to get any easier, so I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to see that, but who here feels very confident? Oh, well, the Mets are going to beat the Brewers, or is everybody hedging their bets the way I am, basically?
I'm a hedger. I mean, just
hedging.
Yeah.
Just not because of the talent. I think we match up very well, but I mean, can you imagine after what you saw last night and yesterday, flying and then playing a game in what time is it? They're playing in 4 hours.
Yeah. Well, I would say that today's not the problem. I think that all that might catch up with them tomorrow. But I know what you're saying.
Okay.
It's a lot of back and forth. It's a lot of wear and tear. But at the same time, there's going to be a lot of adrenaline and excitement, because they did win that
Red
first
Bull.
game. Yeah. And then they were, look, we talked about, I mentioned it, that they really took their foot off the gas in that second game. So whether they should have or not, that's not the point. So
they had to. There was nothing left.
and then somebody in the chat said that officially, who said it? Somebody said that Chris Sale is not on the wild card
He's
roster.
not. He's
yeah.
not.
Oh, yeah. Larry.
Oh, so they weren't faking it.
So no, I didn't think they were faking it.
I thought there was a chance they were going. They were taking a risk,
isn't it? I mean, they were not transparent about the fact that.
Okay, so I just said the Braves always lie about injuries. They never tell you anything.
Is that legal?
What, did you get arrested?
No. I'm saying in terms of baseball rules.
What would Billy Epler do?
I don't know.
I don't think the rules are the same as like the NBA or the NFL, where it's that closely guarded. I mean, there were whispers that Sale's velocity was down, that something might be up with him, and then he wasn't pitching. The first game was something of a surprise. I think
it just you shouldn't be allowed to fake
a
guy being well.
Let me just jump in because I felt like him not pitching the first game was not surprising because they really wanted to save him for today. If he was healthy.
No different than
Severino. We try to win the first game, and if we don't, then. But when they announced between innings. But so obviously when he didn't pitch that second game, I was like, all right, there has to be.
I assumed that he was not going to be pitching in the wild card series. That just wouldn't make any sense. There's no gamesmanship about that.
I thought there was a chance. I thought there was a chance that they figured the Mets were going to lay down and die in the second game. So don't pitch Sale and have him for game one against the Padres. I thought that's a risk. It's the kind of like going on fourth down. I thought maybe they're going to rest Sale because the Mets are resting the whole lineup. We'll just throw a guy out there. We're going to win. Yeah. But the fact he didn't make the roster, boy, that's some bad timing for the Braves.
Yeah. Can I ask a question? Speaking about rosters, do we have any update on Senga? Does anyone in this
not on the roster?
With Senga, he's not on the roster.
I saw the roster. He's not on it.
Yeah, Senga's not on the wild card roster. There is a bit of an idea of having him ready for the next series if we would advance that much, but definitely not the bullpen.
So did Lucchesi make the team as the lefty?
No, he was never making the team.
Well, I mean, Young got sent down, so there's a spot on the roster.
They brought up. There's the extra spot for a doubleheader.
They brought up the other Young.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. They sent down Young to bring up Lucchesi.
Right. Then they reversed it, I think.
And they moved Scott to the 60-day DL. I don't know. I heard the roster moves. Anyway, the short of it is.
I have it right now if you want. The relievers are Braziban, Buto, Diaz, Garrett, Kranick, Maton.
Yeah, that's the guy that's good.
Stanek, and Danny Young.
Yeah.
Not Alex. Danny.
Okay, so they switched Youngs.
Yeah.
Okay. Not the first time.
Yeah.
So
put it this way: if we need Kranick, things are going either very, very badly or very, very well.
Right.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and the similarity of the name reminded me that Diaz not covering first moment, that it was Kelnick at the plate, so there's that story that could have been told, but it all worked out.
I needed a strike out there. I needed him to blow Kelnick away, and it would have been like, yes, we got the better end of the deal. But boy, what up?
I mean, can we just pause on what we very narrowly avoided there as a Mets historic collapse after this entire season? Because if that had been how we lost 7-6, right? That means that after being the best team in baseball for 4 months, right? Literally the best team in baseball for 4 months.
Yeah.
We have a 2-game lead in the wild card with 6 games to go. We wind up going 1-5. Blow a 3-run lead by our reliever forgetting to cover first base. I mean, that would have been a Mets collapse for the ages. Like, we were this close to ruining this whole thing. I mean, I kept thinking throughout September, this has been such a good vibe season.
Yeah.
How are we
I can't believe we're here, that there's no way I'm going to let myself be upset if this doesn't pan out, right? I was like, Devin, promise yourself you're going to savor this because you didn't think that this was going to happen, and it was such a great run. If that's how we ended up losing, that would have done it. That would have finally kicked us in the teeth. That would have been
it
would have been the Mets. It would have been the Mets. It would have been the Mets. Like, it would have been like, how can we possibly make it so that this season still leaves a bitter taste in our mouths? Aha, we have found the way. But
Devin,
now I don't know.
Devin, do you feel like had they lost that game 1, they would have been so demoralized they wouldn't have won game 2?
My instinct says yes. The only reason why I wonder if that's true is because the Braves were feeling the same way. They pulled it out. I think that what we saw is how drained and non-competitive we were in that second game, and I have to think that Atlanta would have been the same way if the shoe was on the other foot. That being said, we are the Mets. They are not. So, us losing that second game, absolutely. And in this weird way, I wonder if you guys agree with this, but I would have liked our chances of winning game 2 better. If we had lost game 1, I would have liked our chances in game 2 better if we had never come back from 3-0. If we were just like, all right, we lost on to game 2. We didn't have it. Just on to game 2. Let's focus and we'll get it.
I mean,
but to get kicked in the teeth like that, I think we might have lost.
At the end of the 7th inning,
that emotionally draining to lose it.
Yeah.
How do you go back out in an hour and say, okay, let's do it?
At the end of the 7th inning, when it was 3-0, I'm like, all right, well, they'll have a good shot in the second game because the Braves won't start Sale, not knowing all of that. So let's keep it with the Braves, though, as we were going to talk. I don't see this Braves team, this Sale-less Braves team, beating the Padres at home, who are very well rested and had no tension at any point in their lives. Not just yesterday, they went and had a batting practice in Arizona on Friday and Saturday during an actual game. But they definitely were teeing off, and then they even took it easy on Sunday. So I think that they're a much better team. The matchup. Yes, I have my personal feelings about the Braves. I don't see this Braves team as constituted without Chris Sale, where you'd feel like, all right, the Braves would definitely win that first game if Sale pitched. I don't see them winning, but I'll go down. What do you think, Salmon?
Well, from what you just described, I would think that the Padres a little laid back for me. I mean, the Braves are coming out firing after. I mean, after yesterday, you got to have some adrenaline going. I just don't find that the Padres play winning baseball. They play good baseball, but I can't stand Manny Machado. And
Sure.
I mean, I know that there's going to be at least one play in this series where he doesn't hustle or he makes a mental mistake, and I don't know. They celebrate way too much for a team that's never won jack shit.
Well, so some people say that about the Mets, but I know.
But we've won twice. We're
just happy to be alive. We're just celebrating life.
That's right. And the thing though is San Diego just by nature is a very laid back place. We've driven down there. It's I don't know that it's Slam Diego, but look, I just feel like seeing it's more like watching the Braves play the Royals over the weekend. I'm just like, no, they don't necessarily measure up to top tier talent, but I guess we'll see. Flobito, where are you at? The Bravos or Slam Diego?
Yeah, you look at this field right now, and if you had to rank teams that have pressure on them, like Dodgers #1, you know what I mean? But the San Diego's up there too. For so long, they had the blank check that no one talks about because the Mets spent more. So this series is really on them. They don't get this done, you have to ask really strong questions about the organization. So I do think some of desperation or playing tight may happen here in San Diego, which will work out to the Braves' advantage. But if you do the tail of the tape, it should be San Diego all day.
Right. Yeah, so that's the official. We're gonna lock in that DJ Flobito pick.
Hey,
yeah.
Now we're gonna play "Who Let the Mets Out" coming up after this.
I'll take the royalties.
I do have an MP3 of it that someone emailed me. What do you think, Brody, about the Braves versus the Padres?
If I'm basing it unscientifically, the Padres have the ugliest jerseys, and they have the ugliest City Connect jerseys.
Yeah,
the catcher looks like the San Diego Chicken.
Let me just put a pin in that for a second. We might have to do a whole show on City Connect jerseys because finding the ugliest is not easy.
I'm ready for that.
But I know what you're saying. So and they don't have the chicken anymore.
Yeah, but when the catcher wears the yellow and the pink outfit, it looks terrible. Yeah, I like the New York City. I like the Met City Connect. I don't love it, but I like it enough.
They're all right.
I like it. The stadium goes purple. I think it's a cool thing. Yeah. But the Padres are literally pee and poop. That's the uniform.
Right, pee and poop, and then it's the pastel chalk, like a little girl drew it on the uniforms.
Exactly. That being said, F the Braves. They haven't got Chris Sale. They haven't got Acuna Jr. I hate Ozuna. I'm rooting for the Padres hardcore so that they can lose to the Dodgers. But I think the Padres take a sweep on the Braves. I think the Braves are shot by the way they ended the season and the playoffs, the 2 game yesterday, doubleheader. I don't see them winning a game. I think the Padres lineup is loaded. And if they can play decent fundamental baseball, it should be easy.
So you're looking for good fundies. What do you think, Devin, about this specific matchup between the Padres and the Braves?
I think the Padres have this one. I think the Padres are really good. I think they're a contender to come out of the National League. They've got a well-built postseason team. A lot of starting pitching, good bullpen, really good bullpen, hitting up and down the lineup. I think they're really good. I think that them versus the Dodgers in the second round is likely to sort of be the series of the National League side in the playoffs. And I just think we bring out something in the Braves, right? They have been struggling this last month. They have looked very ordinary against pretty much every team they've played.
Yeah,
we do something to them that is documented through history. I don't think I just don't think they've got the energy. I think they're too banged up. I don't get the sense that there's the spirit there. And I don't mean that as a knock on them. I just, it's like they're like a fighter who's taken too many punches at this point. And they're playing against a really good team, and they have to fly all the way across the country to do this. I think that's, I think they have more to overcome than we do. Let's put it that way.
Definitely.
2 teams that are going into this scenario where the odds are, you're coming off a doubleheader and then you have to go straight into a playoff game on the road. I'd rather have our predicament than theirs, and I just don't think that they've got enough. A good friend of mine who's a Braves fan really thought they were going to lose that second game last night. He's like, we're cooked. We're just cooked. And they had to struggle. They had to fight to get it. They really did crawl across the finish line there. So I'm going to take San Diego, and San Diego might even be my pick for the National League.
Well, I'll do sort of the old snake draft where we'll go in reverse order now. So you've got San Diego advancing to face the Dodgers. Do you think that they can beat the Dodgers, Devin?
Yeah, I mean, for whatever reason, the Dodgers are imminently beatable in the playoffs, aren't they? I mean, how could you have any confidence in their starting pitching?
Zero.
I can't imagine they have confidence in their starting pitching. And we all know that that's how you win in the playoffs. The Padres just seem to have one of those rotations that could really dominate. And maybe it's just because I saw a couple of those guys do it to us 2 years ago. But they just seem built for it. Whereas I don't know where that's coming from for LA. And I realize that the Dodgers have this incredible lineup, but I feel like we've seen so many times, it's usually the Yankees who do this, where they have a team that is really front loaded on 2 studs, and you get to the playoffs and maybe those guys just don't get up when you need them to get up.
The pitching is so bad, if I may interrupt, that Ohtani could hit 1,000 for the series. They could still lose.
Yes. Yes.
They'll
yes.
lose 7-6, 10-9,
Right.
whatever it is.
And I think that's the difference with this Dodger team versus the last couple years. A casual baseball fan isn't going to be able to go like, well, of course they have Kershaw, and the year that they
don't.
Well, that's what I mean. Like you can usually come up with a couple of pitchers, and through no fault of their own, they just don't have those those bullets in the gun. What do you think, Brody? You've got the Padres beating the Bravos. What do you think? Can they take down the Dodgers?
Well, I'm at a disadvantage here. You guys watch the Dodgers on a regular basis, as a more so than I do. So for me, when I think of the Dodgers, I'm thinking of the lineup, right? I'm thinking of the big hitters, and to me, that's an overpowering option. But the way you're describing the starting pitching, which I know is damaged, the Padres have the pitching, and it's a short series rather.
Yeah.
So maybe in a 5-game or a 7-game, I take the Dodgers, but in a short series like this.
This would be a 5. This is a 5. The NLDS is.
Oh,
a
5. 5, right?
Yeah.
I still
very
need
tight.
more pitching.
Yeah.
I still.
You need at least one guy.
You need one guy to win 2 games for you,
right?
And
they don't have it.
Well,
the Padres do. So I'm going to go with the Padres over the Dodgers, even though it could go either way. I'm not saying I love the idea. Wouldn't put money on it, but I'll take the Padres 3-2 in a 5-game series.
All right, that sounds fair. And look, having sat and watched the Mets get beat by both fan bases, Dodger fans are loud, and there's a lot of them. I feel as though they are far less passionate than San Diego, just actually sitting in the stadium. I don't know about outside of that. The LA is a very bandwagon town, and when the Lakers are good, nobody's even glancing at the Dodgers. This year they would. So I guess I'm painting with too broad a brush there. But the time that the 20 years I've lived here, there have been years where there have been at least very good Dodger teams, and everybody's like, yeah, but Lakers preseason is on. I'm like, I don't even understand you. In a lot of ways, DC was always like that with the now Commanders. It was like, we don't care about anything else. We just have to focus on the NFL. So you have the big dog in town. But what do you think, Flobito, about the Padres and the Dodgers?
Yeah, it's like the irresistible force, movable object situation. Like San Diego, again, stronger team. LA has the bombs. San Diego has had LA's number during the regular season, but even though the Dodgers tend to flame out in the postseason, they always beat San Diego on the way down. It's almost like you're getting jumped and you're like, I'm knocking out one guy before I get knocked out. So it's kind of a weird thing. I would say if LA gets their stuff together, they will beat San Diego if they were to meet in the NLDS, but that's definitely more of a heart take than a head take.
Right. And I mean, the year that the Dodgers beat them in the NLDS, that was the year that they beat the Mets, right? So that was in 22. And then they go on to beat the Dodgers. And that Dodger team, I was shocked that they beat them. So, and I feel like that Dodger team was better. And this Padres team is also better than that one. So, I mean, it's obviously you're going on feeling and instinct here, but I feel like for the comparison to the Yankees is a strong one, Devin, because they always have like, oh, look at this great guy that they brought in and look at what he's done for them. But I guess they have the one guy who it's like he could hit and pitch, but they don't have him pitching. So that could be a different conversation. Salmon, I think I know where you're heading with this, but what do you think?
You?
No. Go ahead.
Well, as much as I am not a big Dodger fan in the playoffs, I just don't think San Diego is a team that knows how to win yet. Right. They've got great talent, but they haven't proven themselves in the playoffs where you've got to bear down and do all the things correctly. They've got probably better overall talent than the Dodgers because of the pitching, but someone was it Flobito who just said that the Dodgers should be able to win one series before they go down in flames.
I can see that.
That's right. I see Freeman and Betts and Ohtani hitting the shit out of the ball. But, once they get into the 6th inning, who's pitching?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, a game you win 8-7 counts just as much as a well-pitched 1-0.
Yes, it does,
shutout.
but you could just as easily lose 8-7.
Well, I think that you kind of saw the Dodgers fading down the stretch. The Padres could have actually caught them for the division. There was one day where they were, mathematically it wasn't that far off. It ultimately didn't happen, but I think that the Dodgers had a tremendous year, and would I be shocked if they beat the Padres? No, I just don't think they will. But while we're talking about the Dodgers, I did want to share with our audience a little something from a few weeks ago when Shohei Ohtani joined the 50-50 club. This is the Japanese call of that home run.
오타니가 결국엔 해냅니다. 이제 메이저리그 역사의 담장도 넘겨버렸습니다. 다시 보기 힘들 50홈런 그리고 50도로 역사를 새롭게 장식하고 있습니다.
So I think that the U.S. call, the Dodgers call, was good. It was very solid, and even the Marlins one was good. But there's just something about a good foreign call like that. And so while we're at it, here's the Korean call. I love the yelling, really.
That's great. Is that all? Christian, were those local stations, LA stations, or were those
I have my sources. Yeah, so that was for There's a Spanish one out there, but I don't want to spend too much time on it.
No. Gary Cohen thought that was a fly ball, but I don't know if you know that.
So the question that I have, and we'll get back to the playoffs, is I like with Babe Ruth, I would say that I would urge Ohtani not to pitch ever again after this year. I just think you will get a pitcher. Let's have you do that. But I might be the only one. Obviously, you paid him all that money so that he could do both. But who disagrees with me? Who thinks that he should be pitching next year? Devin Gordon and David Brody. So Devin, your hand went up. Devin, your hand went up
fun.
First. Yeah,
it's fun.
What if he blows his elbow out again?
Well, then he'll just go 50 for 50. He'll just go 50-50 again the next season. I mean,
I've never tried to bat with a right elbow blown out. Have you?
Well, you're also not sure.
Ohtani.
He just did it. But, he just did it. I mean, he's been recovering from Tommy John all season.
It wasn't blown out. It was surgically repaired.
Yeah.
Let's say he blows his elbow out pitching by July.
So he hit 25 home runs.
Right. That's not good enough.
No.
Maybe he won 9 games. I don't know.
Go ahead. And what are your thoughts, Brody?
He's such a great pitcher. It's not like he's an average pitcher. And you're like,
exactly.
Give it up.
Yeah.
He's a superstar pitcher, and he's a super. Listen, he has a chance to continue to be a once in a lifetime, once in a history of baseball player.
Babe
Ruth didn't do what he's doing at the same time and was one of the greatest pitchers and hitters. Babe Ruth, great, wonderfully out home of the league, no comparison. Shohei Ohtani is the greatest two-way ball player ever, and he's great at both of them. And I think as an athlete and as a competitor, there's no way he's not going to pitch again. He's going to want to pitch. He's not going to be like, I could win 15 games, but I like hitting. He doesn't play the field. All he does is hit and he sits down. I think he needs to pitch. And he may never blow out his arm again. You don't know.
Yeah.
So
no, it's fair. And Larry chimes in. We'll never see a player like him again. He pitches for till his arm falls off. Look, I don't think it's likely. I'm just saying that I think that the revelation of what he is doing strictly as a designated hitter, it's at least worth the consideration. But look, it's a tremendous acquisition, and I again, another thing that I would give credit to, somebody was talking about like, oh my gosh, like Ohtani is one of those legendary players that you think of when you think of some of the greats like Mike Trout and Albert Pujols. If only the three of them had ever been on a team together. So
they would win for sure.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So
how relieved is baseball that he's in the postseason? My God, I mean, we're almost sort of like, we're almost taking for granted or skipping over the fact that Ohtani is actually finally in the postseason and baseball is getting his wet dream, right?
Trout will never be in the postseason.
Ohtani's not dating Taylor Swift. Otherwise, it would be the ultimate.
Well, he does have he had a bobblehead that was like with his dog that people literally lined up like 6 hours before first pitch to make sure they got it. So I think that they've got the branding all worked out. So a lot of us are saying that it would be the Padres faring against the winner of this other series. And look, I think that it's like, yes, I can see the Mets beating the Phillies because I've seen it happen enough. But do I think they will? If I'm making an official pick where I was putting money to it, I wouldn't take the Mets to beat the Brewers and then beat the Phillies. But I sure like to see it. I would love to see that happen. But if I can only pick one, I'm saying that Philly would win that series. But what do you think, Salmon?
Yeah, I'm with you. I just think the Phillies have a really strong lineup. They play winning baseball for the most part. As Keith says, sometimes they show bad fundies. Alec Boehm, he's made some errors in the clutch. But I think overall, at that point, the Mets will be washed.
Yeah.
I mean, these 3 days, oh my God. I mean, they're how many days in a row plus air travel?
Yeah. Well,
even if you're a professional athlete, you're making millions, you're a human being. You can't, you need 2 days off to get your head together, let alone your legs.
Right. So if they were to beat the Brewers and that series goes 3 days, they literally have 1 day and then they're in Philly playing on Saturday.
Right. In a 3 of 5.
And best of 5.
Okay.
Which they'd eventually get a home game in there.
That would be nice.
Somebody could sit in the Grimace seat, but I just don't see it happening. And look, Larry's a Phillies fan, so I appreciate this. Phillies pitching will keep them in every game. As long as the bats don't go cold, they'll make a deep run. And it's a very deep lineup, and the pitching is really their advantage over the Dodgers. The fact that Philly has in the National League, it is the team that is built the best top to bottom. It's like the Braves are supposed to be. It's the way that the Phillies are actually built. Flobo, do you see the Phillies or Mets or Brewers moving on to the National League Championship Series?
Well, of course, I want to say the Mets. It's the podcast
Good for you.
we're on, man. Oh, the magic number is 13. Is there 13 wins? And we're just good.
All right.
You can't spell optimism without Flobo.
Yeah, exactly. No, I would love to see New York go that far, but I think Philadelphia has a good chance. I know the story in the NL East has been about like the injuries that Atlanta has, but we'll go into predictions that I was the only person to call Philadelphia being able to go advance because they had the tools there. Talking about self-inflicted pressure, Bryce Harper and company have a sole mission: championship or bust. Because there was a time last year where Philadelphia lost like 4 finals back to back in different sports, so that may be the fire for them now. I don't think it takes them to the promised land, but it totally will get them to the NLCS. I guess the Dodgers is my prediction.
So you're saying the Phillies would advance? Yeah,
that is my endless prediction.
I know what you're. If we do our first ever like bonus one of these in November because the Mets won the World Series, I'd love to be wrong. I just don't. I don't have. I'm too old. 20 years ago, I probably would have been like, oh yeah, of course. I mean, in 2000, I was like, well, how could they not beat the Yankees? So
you can't get beat down forever. It's gotta be like every time 162-0.
What do you think, Brody, in terms of the NLDS with the Phillies and possibly the Mets, maybe more likely the Brewers? But what do you feel about Philly advancing?
Well, let's say hypothetically, the Mets advance somehow.
Okay.
You're going up against Zach Wheeler, and I forget who the number 2 starter is.
Nola.
Nola, right. Wheeler and Nola, and the Mets would be throwing out Quintana and Tylos McGill. So I feel like you're 0-2 at that point.
Yeah.
So I don't see the Mets beating the Phillies. I think if the Mets went with their number 1, pitcher against Wheeler, they'd have a shot. But Wheeler's been rested. Nola's been rested. I feel like the Phillies go to the World Series this year. I'm going to jump ahead.
Yeah,
so
but it's all right. You can jump ahead. I'm feeling very similar. And yeah, the fact that the Mets beat Wheeler just like 2 weeks ago has me convinced that there's no scenario where they would beat him again this weekend. But I don't know. Maybe I'm going too much on my gut, Devin. What do you think?
I just want to put in a shout out for our ace, David Peterson.
That's a great point.
We would get him. I can't believe that I'm being like, oh, no, don't worry about Tyler McGill because we've got David Peterson instead. I mean, it's just amazing that's the point that we've gotten to. I don't necessarily think that puts us in some great position. I do know that the Phillies fans will be very nervous. I think they are a little scared of us, whether they should be or not. I think that they have been a little wobbly confidence-wise. In fact, I know they've been a little wobbly. I have a lot of Phillies fans friends. They've been a little wobbly in their confidence the last couple of months. That losing 3 of 4 to us when they were trying to clinch was a little disheartening for them. That being said, I think they're probably the best team in the National League. I felt that way for most of the season. Once Strider and Acuna went out, I felt it was pretty clearly they were the best team. I do think that the Padres have a shot of coming out of this. I just have something about that team. But if a gun to my head, I would pick the Phillies to come out of the National League.
Right. No, and I think that and Larry points out there's no break in Game 3. You get Sanchez. Yeah, no, it's not.
That's a very strong 3-pitcher game.
It's not like going. It wasn't like having when the Diamondbacks had Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling, and then they did not really have a third pitcher that year. But
by the way, their lineup is bananas. Let's talking about the pitching, but I look at their lineup, I'm like, Jesus. I mean, these guys, they have just one thumper after another, and I mean real thumpers. That is a very deep lineup. They are, they are healthy. Boma's back. I don't want to play that team. I mean, I do want to play that team because it means we got there, but I think they're really, really good.
And as fun as it is to watch Bryce Harper just have bat flip after bat flip against the Braves in the playoffs, I can't imagine having to look at that for a 5-game series.
We just don't get him out ever. Yeah. It's crazy. We just don't get him out.
He's a Met killer.
I see the Phillies advancing and defeating the Padres. Were it to be the Dodgers, I think that they would win it even quicker. I think it would be it might be a clean sweep by the Phillies. But what say the rest of you about the National League Championship Series? Who comes out on top? I'll ask you first, Devin.
I'm going to stick with the Phillies.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that the Dodgers will be there. But I just like top to bottom. I like that Phillies team. I feel they have that sort of on a mission vibe to them that even could sort of explain away some of the second half doldrums that has their fans angsty right now. I mean, they've had that division wrapped since the All-Star break. And that's a tough thing to stay focused through the dog days of the summer. And they're rested. They have been able to cruise into this and be ready. And I think things are lining up for them. I mean, I even think that their side of the draw is a preferable side of the draw. I think things worked out for them, in terms of who they will have to go through in order to get to the NLCS.
Right. The fact that they're not looking at the Braves or the Padres, the fact that it's the Mets or in my opinion, more likely the Brewers, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's, the sort of the weaker side of the bracket. They avoid even LA until the National League Championship Series. I do think, LA is maybe one of those teams that you're less, I would rather play LA over a long series and try to, beat that pitching rather than, a shorter series where, Shohei Ohtani can have 10 RBIs in one game and just wipe you out. That's, I think they're built for this. And they've they're experienced. They're ready in a way that some of these other teams aren't.
Yeah, and I think they learned from something that Larry put in the chat. It's a great lineup, but they can go cold like they did in games 5 through 7 against Arizona last year in the NLCS. And that was actually surprising when they just very abruptly stopped hitting like that. And yeah, obviously it can happen, but I do feel like being able to have that under your belt, it only makes you stronger. It's of that variety. Mr. Brody will pop back in a little bit. What do you think, Flobo? Who's our National League champion?
It's funny because I had to do a bracket on my own. I had the Dodgers beating the Royals in the World Series, but working on this with you guys together, I'm like, I guess the Phillies. I've been convinced to the dark side that rooting for Philadelphia. You know what I mean? I just think that makes the most sense.
And Brody, who do you think is our National League champion heading into the World Series, Mr. Brody?
As previously documented, the Phillies.
Yeah. Okay. I want to make sure that that's where we're at. And Mr. Weiss.
I'm going to have to go with the cheesesteak eating, fanatic loving, gritty, fighting Phils.
Well, shout out to Gritty. Always a shout out to Gritty.
Yeah.
And I think that I can't. It's the same thing where I'm like, well, this Braves team, I don't see, accomplishing this specific series.
Not without Acuna.
No. And so I'm like, so this Dodger team, I don't see beating this Philly team. So right now, Larry is celebrating his National League championship. As always, we'll breeze through the American League a little bit faster, but I need to start off with the tremendous story of the Detroit Tigers, who it's well documented that on August 2nd, after the trade deadline, they had a 0.02% chance of making the playoffs. Wow. It's like the Mets. It's a great run. It's a fun story. I don't see it going real far. I've also seen the stats where the reason that we're getting 3 teams from the AL Central is just how historically bad the White Sox were. And you can't ignore that. The fact that Kansas City and Detroit, have, 10 wins each against the White Sox, put them in the playoffs. Whereas, other teams aren't so lucky. And obviously the Guardians got to as well. Right. I think that it's a feel-good story. The Tigers, I'm never going to look at the Royals the same after 2015, but you can appreciate the small market team that puts it all together and plays well. But I think that the White Sox are the real story here. And Devin, I'll go to you first, because when you have something like that at the center of your division, just that kind of colossally bad team, what does that do for baseball? And what does that do for the South Side of Chicago, really, that they have that bad of a team there?
I didn't realize that. It makes perfect sense when you pointed out that that's why we have the field that we have, although, the Twins were in the Central. And
it's a great point.
They could have capitalized on this, and they're the ones that the Tigers overtook.
2 weeks ago, I would have said, well, sure, the Twins are making the playoffs.
Yeah. It's funny. Whenever I look at the ALC, the American League side of the playoff bracket, I'm always doing one thing. I'm just looking for the team that can beat the Yankees, right? Yeah. Fundamentally, all I'm looking at is I see 5 teams, and I'm like, which is the team here that's going to beat the Yankees? Because that's really all I care about. Generally speaking, my favorite day of the playoffs is the day that the Yankees get eliminated, because usually there's enough there to give me that joy.
Same.
Let me interject. My friend Brian, who he grew up in Eastern Connecticut, but lifelong Red Sox fan. His wife every year makes a cake on Yankee Elimination Day, and he always
wow. What kind of cake?
If I could bake, I would do something like that. That's a really really good idea.
I believe it started in 2004. And the tradition just goes on. Yeah, well, and you love seeing the Yankees lose.
Suffice it to say, I do not think the Tigers will be the team. that knocked the Yankees out. I do see a couple of teams there that I have high hopes for. I wish they weren't facing each other in the wild card round. I think that Kansas City and the Orioles are both very, very frisky young teams that have the kind of makeup that can just, blindly, stupidly, youthfully gallop past an older team like the Yankees that I definitely think is top heavy. But I just need somebody to do it. I just need somebody to do it. I think we pretty much all feel the same way. It's like it's the AL versus the Yankees. Just give me somebody to knock them out.
Yeah, and it's always you always circle the Astros because you feel like that's the team that can do it, and I don't much care for that franchise and the hitting the garbage cans and all that, but it's like when it comes to the Yankees, you just have to figure out who has the talent to do it. And when you look at that entire American League side of the bracket, I don't see a team that I'm convinced. I think, again, recent history has me thinking. If you guys remember last year, I felt like the Orioles had a good run in them, and then they didn't win any games in the playoffs. So I'm very hesitant to pick them again, but I do like them. I do think that that Kansas City series is actually going to be pretty exciting. I think it's starting like right now, right? That's the first one, or the Tigers. The Tigers and Astros are actually the ones that are about to start. So we'll wrap this up fairly quickly. I mean, again, I think Devin, you look at it the way that most Mets fans do, of like, all right, but there has to be somebody who can make it so the Yankees don't get the World Series. But I don't see it. I think that I can see Houston and the Orioles coming out of the first round. I haven't really learned my lesson from last year. Who do we like in the both first round series in the AL, David? With Salmon, sorry.
I have so many names.
I know I do this for a reason. Yeah.
Yes, I know.
Mr. Blurry.
Mr. Blurry. I like Houston.
Okay.
Detroit is a nice story.
Love the story.
I think Detroit will take the first game. They have an excellent number one pitcher. Look for him to stuff the bats up the Astros' butts.
Not literally, right? That's a figurative.
No, not literally. That would be a Diddy party.
Yeah, that's at least a fine, man.
I think Skubal would have against Framber Valdez. That is the matchup. So yeah,
I am a big fan of those baby birds. I think they're beating Kansas City, and then I think the Birds are going to take down the Yankees.
I mean, they played them tough over the weekend and really delayed their celebration. We'll get to that in a moment.
Okay.
Flobo, I feel like you've already tipped your hand a little bit that you like the Royals in that matchup, right?
I just have to, man. We had this preseason show in March. I said the Royals are going to win the pennant. I can't back down now. So I'm going to triple down. So.
Yeah. Hey.
Roll with it. That's impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get one right every year. I had the Snakes last year.
You're as determined as George Brett when he can't find a place to take a shit. Sorry for the colorful language, but that's literally one of the greatest stories that has ever been told on a microphone. So
was this during the hemorrhoids situation?
No. If you don't know that
training video, you got to go look up the video. It is a fantastic George Brett story.
Okay.
Treat yourself.
All right, very good.
Yeah, jump into the game late. Watch the George Brett story.
Okay.
So you like the Royals, and how do you feel? Well, what do you think about the Tigers-Astros series?
I like the Tigers, man. I feel like a story, the Mets of the other side, but
sure.
Houston got good for a reason. I mean, they wrote Houston off the same time they wrote the Mets off, and Houston's actually overperformed. You can't deny that. I'm pretty much neutral on the team, but I understand if no one wants them to win, but they have to win here, right? Because they are pretty much excelling in every category except for their opening rotation.
What do you think, Devin, about those two first-round series in the American League?
Yeah, I like the Birds. I think that maybe last year they were just a little bit ahead of themselves, and maybe this year they'll come in with a little bit more poise and a little bit more depth and a little bit more frontline pitching with Corbin Burns. I think that's going to be really, really helpful, having a genuine ace in there. I realize that the Astros are, an unpopular team, villainous. I've always had a difficult time feeling that way against them because they always feel like the shield against the Yankees for me. So I'm always enthusiastic about them. I always like, okay, at least there's the Astros there and the Yankees won't get past them. And I still feel kind of the same way. They're sort of like the fail-safe switch is like, worst comes to worst, the Yankees can lose to the Astros in the ALCS. Like
the last time the Yankees were in the World Series and won was 2009, and that's before the Astros were the Astros. The Astros were still in the National League the last time that the Yankees made it to the World Series. What do you think, Brody, of these two series?
Well, I think I picked Detroit to win the division. So, and I think they're a great story. I wouldn't want to see them up against Houston, but they're up against Houston. So I'm taking Houston against Detroit. I think the Kansas City Orioles game, that may be the most fun series to watch. I think it's two very exciting young teams, but I'm going with the Orioles because they're a little more experienced and they have Corbin Burns. So I'm going with the Orioles moving ahead. And then, am I going past the?
So now you get to advance to the next round and tell us what you think will happen.
Okay, snake draft.
Into the SS. Yeah,
I'm going Houston over Cleveland until I see somebody knock off Houston early. I'm going with Houston over Cleveland.
I also need to see Cleveland show me they can win.
Yeah, yeah. And Houston just keeps winning in the postseason.
Yeah.
As far as the other side of the bracket there, I'm hoping for the Orioles.
Yeah.
We all hate the Yankees. So the Yankees are built on one or two pitchers and two really good hitters. I mean, the best.
Like the Dodgers.
Yeah. So look, if Judge and Soto go off and Garrett wins game one, then anything's possible. But, Garrett has occasional bad games, and I'm going with the Orioles because I think top to bottom they have a better roster.
Yeah.
But it's a short series, so I'm going with the Orioles.
Okay.
And then Orioles Astros. I'm still. Oh boy, I hate to say that.
Yeah. Well, that's a tough one. So
that's a tough one. I'm gonna go Houston again because it's Houston.
It's hard to pick against them. All right. So the same thing, Devin. This is what we're talking about. Are the Orioles that team that can beat the Yankees? Or is it going to have to happen in the next round if that's what we get to see?
This is like a head versus heart divide. I mean, and I'm just I can't go with the Yankees. I don't know if there's logic there, or if it's just, my heart overpowering it. Again, I can't tell if it's my heart talking, but I do think that this is a very thin Yankees team. I think there's a reason why the Mets were able to club them around so much. Garrett Cole is getting getting his act together a little bit, but he still hasn't been himself. I know from Yankee fans that their bullpen is a horror show, that they're that they don't trust their closer at all, and that lineup is better with Jazz Chisholm back in the lineup and healthy.
Good job on the name.
But it's still mostly a 2 or 3 guy lineup. I mean, they've got, Stanton, is healthy and is always scary when he's healthy. But man, there's a lot of holes in that lineup, and, in shorter series, it's just one of those situations where, the randomness of baseball is part of the reason why it's so hard to do this with 1 or 2 people. It's not just that you need them to perform, but maybe they're not going to come up in those right situations. Maybe maybe the dice doesn't roll the right way. Aaron Judge keeps coming up with the bases empty, or it's the 8th inning and you need Aaron Judge, but you're at the bottom of the order and it doesn't happen.
And Gleyber Torres is up.
Yeah, it's the kind of randomness that happens in a short series, and it's one of the reasons why I think this Yankees team is so vulnerable. They're susceptible to the randomness of short season playoff baseball. And I desperately want it to be the Orioles who get them. But if it's not going to be the Orioles, then I can take faith in the Astros doing what they always do, and polishing them off.
And I think everybody feels that the Guardians don't have it. And Sal, you invoked the name of like a good Gleyber, Torres is there. So You got the the first
That's well played.
John Sterling call of the podcast. So thank you for bringing up Gleyber Torres. What do you think, Flobo? Where are we coming at? Who's coming out of the AL to represent in the World Series?
Well, if I can't pick my Royals again, if I'm gonna do, if I have to be all logical about it, it definitely seems it's going to be New York Series to lose. I know they're very, very top heavy, but you have a team on their side of the bracket in the Orioles that tend to be a lot streaky. And so even if you have a top heavy team versus a streaky team, I'm taking top heavy every day of the week. And again, not to poo on Cleveland, I don't think there'd be much of a force for Houston. And Houston and the Yankees are pretty much toss up, right? What flavor you want this year? I think the Yankees come out ahead just with that. So I hate to say it, but I do think the Bronx head themselves over if I'm going strictly on logic. But I'm rooting for the Royals, baby.
No, I know. Appreciate it. And what do you think, Sal?
I like. By the way, Detroit is out in the top of the first. I got the game on.
All right.
I like Houston. They're, as much as I hate Houston, I like Houston to win this series. I like Houston to go beat the Guardians. I like the Baby Birds, as I said before, and as Devin said, the Yankees are thin and top heavy and overconfident, and I hate them. So I am taking.
There it is.
You just described my perfect woman.
I am taking the Baby Birds over the Yankees, and I'm taking the Baby Birds over Houston to make it to the World Series.
I love that. Wow. I would love to see that happen. I'd be very excited. I'm sure if Melissa's still watching, she'd be excited because she's got a lot of Oriole fans in her family. I would love that series. I would love a long run by the Orioles, but I made that mistake last year. So, yeah, I think Yankees, Astros, and the ALCS with, again, there's heart and head can agree that the Astros should be the ones to take it. And I, again, feel the Phillies are the best team in baseball. So I see the Phillies being our World Series champion. Who do you have winning it all, David? Sorry, I'm going to do it again.
No,
Sal.
Whatever.
I call you Sal on this show.
In my I-95 series, the Orioles versus the Phillies, I think the Phillies will take that rather easily this year.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Just imagine sitting in the stands with that accent. Hey, you want to go home after this? You're going to go to Wawa for a hoagie? No, I can't imagine. That would literally be the worst accent.
You get some water ice.
Water ice is
getting
good,
a hoagie at Wawa.
It's redundant is what it is.
Both delicious.
Well, yeah.
But
it's good.
I can't imagine that. I can't imagine sitting in the stands at those games. What do you think, Flobo? Who is our World Series champion?
The Dodgers. I mean, the Phillies. I said the Dodgers on my prediction show, but as it is right now, the National League has to do it. They're just in the most parity and the most strongest side. So I'm going with Philadelphia here for this.
So we talked to you collectively out of the Dodgers and into the Phillies, and I don't know if I feel good about that or not.
I don't think the Dodgers can do it all the way. They're going to collapse anyway. But my prediction was Dodgers over Royals. But if the Phillies go win, they have to win.
Larry didn't appreciate my thoughts on the accent, but come on.
The Delco accent's the worst.
It's really tough to listen to. What do you think, Devin? Who's our World Series champion a little bit more than a month from now?
Yeah, I thought the Phillies were the team for a while now. And nothing I really have seen from them for the last couple of months has dissuaded me from that top to bottom. I can't believe I'm picking the Phillies over Baltimore in the World Series, like a Delaware Turnpike series, which I'm sure is exactly what MLB was hoping for. But I think that's what's going to happen, stipulating that I've never been right about this probably ever.
Yeah.
I'm a little disappointed that none of us have a Subway Series potential on the table, and none of us have even discussed it or even considered it or contemplated as a possibility. It's there. It could happen. Definitely. But none of us seem to think so.
Nothing would make me happier, but
and Larry says you guys are the best Mets fans ever because we keep beating the Phillies. Look, I didn't even want a Subway Series in 2000. I really wanted the Mariners. I was just like, I don't want that headache. I don't want it to be the Yankees. Yeah. And then when it happened, I was like, this is not what I want. This is very much not what I want. But I think that it would be very exciting for pocket of the Northeast. Probably a snooze fest for a lot of people, but we don't care. Think about some of these World Series that we've had that have, like the 2002 World Series, the Angels and Giants was among the best in terms of the play on the field and the ins and outs of the game. And like less people watch that than watch the Subway Series. So I don't care. I don't get a share of the ad revenue. So I honestly don't care who watches. But I again see the Phillies. So Brody, I believe you're next. I changed the orientation on the screen. I guess
that's okay. Based on what I said, it's Phillies Astros, and I'm going with Phillies. Who gets the Phillies get home field advantage in the World Series, right?
Don't they? The number one.
Well, the Dodgers have it, and then the Phillies are only a game behind. So I'd
but I mean, if they play the Astros, they get home field advantage, and I think the Phillies at home are just ridiculous. So I'm going with the Phillies over the Astros in the World Series.
Oh yeah, the Astros only won 88 games. So
so I'm just confirming it's.
I just had to look it up because I didn't realize. All right, so that's where we're at, right? So wait, did we all pick the Phillies?
A little too much uniformity for your Phillies fan friend. I think you should be really nervous about that. That does not. There's no chance that all of us are right.
You know what this means? Mets win the World Series.
Mets win the World Series. That's what it means.
LGM. How great is that?
You let the Mets out.
Yeah, who's going to be the first of us to get an OMG tattoo? I don't know.
Me. Last.
I'll get Grimace on the other arm.
Hawk Tua.
Let's draw the line there. Anyway, sorry.
Wait a minute. For Melissa, balk Tua.
Oh, you're so proud of that. By the way, Melissa, quick update. Her son's feeling better, so she and her dad actually are going to go to the Orioles playoffs.
Wow.
So she missed out on us and talking Bucs, but honestly, if I could go to a playoff game at Camden Yards today, I would have blown off all of this and been like, you guys can talk about it without me.
On the Bladtcast, you would have blown off the Bladtcast.
There's been one Bladtcast without me. So
the Flatcast.
They might as well have two. All right. Well, let's make sure that we let everybody know where everybody can be found, starting with our friend Devin Gordon. So many ways to lose. The amazing true story of the New York Mets, the best, worst team in sports. What else would you like people? Where else can people find you, Devin?
I'm writing for the New York Times Magazine in the Atlantic.
Wonderful.
Google me if you want to see more of me. But that's go get the book, especially in this era of good feeling. Read it now so that you're not weeping later.
Yeah, just don't do what I did and read the chapter on 2006 late at night and then not be able to go back to sleep because I was reliving it and it was a huge mistake. But I was trying to finish it so that I could talk to you. And look for Devin over there. And we always appreciate you joining in with us. David Brody, where can people find you?
You could find me on any podcast that Christian is on these days.
It's fair.
That includes it's Thursday. We'll be doing the Agatha All Along podcast.
The Marvel show.
Geekscape Network. You could find me right down for our visual viewers at David Brody on Instagram and Twitter. And of course, the Brooklyn Boys podcast twice a week, wherever you get your podcasts.
And Flobo, if somebody just feels like, gosh, I don't have enough content in my life. If only there was somewhere to turn for new content every day, where would they go?
Tell them to get over it. Check us out. You can find me on the interwebs at flobito.com. Or if you want to see my sports comedy blog, justasandwich.com. No time for fries or drinks, just a sandwich. And if you want to hear me break down all Mets news and content, I'm part of the Mets Digest team. Just put Mets Digest into YouTube. There's new videos up every other day.
Well, I love that. And I hope you have many Mets Digests to do throughout October.
We do, yeah. Hopefully.
I hope that you don't just have two and then by Thursday you're looking for stuff to talk about. David Weiss, Salmon, how do people find you on the social medias?
You can find me at D Weiss Comedy on Insta, on Threads, and on X.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Shout out to the Threads reference. Nice.
I'm also on Threads, but boy, I sure forget to promote it at Christian DMZ on X. Threads, Instagram, and of course the YouTube channel for the Bladtcast, Bladtcast. And there's a lot of movies we'll be doing episodes coming up ahead. The Joker sequel that nobody wants, we'll be talking about that. Brody will be joining me to talk about Jason Reitman's movie about the night of the first episode of Saturday Night Live called Saturday Night. I've seen it. I have a lot of thoughts, but we'll talk about it in the future. And I'm going to make myself go see Megalopolis.
Wow.
No.
If you create content, Devin, and somebody's saying like, you won't believe how far Coppola went into making possibly the worst movie of all time, I need to see it. It's a car crash factor.
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
You can get all that content.
Godspeed.
Yeah. I'll boil it down to a sentence in Twitter so that nobody else has to watch it. And Bladtcast, Bladtcast. That is all the time we have for now. And even though we all picked the Phillies, I'll end with a big let's go Mets. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Cool GM.